Oh, hey there. Well, we got an empty bench here because we're talking about something different than we've ever talked about on the channel before, and that's 3D printing. I've been interested in 3D printing for a while, watched a lot of videos about it. I don't have a 3D printer. I knew nothing about modeling or anything like that, but I've watched a fair amount of videos about it on YouTube. I think it maybe is silly and pointless for the most part, to be fair, but it is intriguing, right? And you can kind of imagine, even though I think the technology today is maybe not all that, you can imagine, somehow in the future having something like a 3D printer that would be pretty cool. And they're certainly coming down in price. They're fairly affordable now. I don't know how good the affordable ones really are, but they are fairly affordable. I'm working on a project here at Skanex Labs that I don't really want to talk about for various reasons on the channel here in public. But in any case, over the course of making it, it became apparent to me that it might be helpful for me to have a funnel of a certain dimension. And, I figured out what dimensions that funnel would be. Here's my expert drawing. Is that in focus? Yeah, it looks pretty in focus. Cool. 66 millimeters across, 30 millimeters at the top, funneling down to 30 millimeters. And, this top kind of dimension I wanted to be about 5 millimeters, and I guessed maybe 40 millimeters for the sloping part. I don't even know how I came up with that 40 millimeters. Honestly, I don't recall, but somehow I decided that sounded like a good number. I don't know. I've never done anything like this before in my life. I watched some more videos on YouTube. I downloaded Fusion 360, which has a free trial. I'm not sure if it's going to be free for hobbyists always. That was my understanding, but it doesn't seem to be an option when I was downloading it. So we'll see what happens when my 30 days are up. I watched a video about how to do some basic stuff in there, and I did it. I modeled this funnel. I rotated around a plane is the kind of method that I used. I drew sort of the profile, which looked like this, and maybe I'll put it up on the screen here so you can see if I can swing that. That might be difficult, or more difficult than it really warrants here. But basically, it was a plane that kind of traced this line and was just the thickness, like 2 millimeters thick. And it traced this line down, and then I spun around the center axis here, and that created a funnel, a three-dimensional funnel. And then I decided to send that model. It looked good, right? But I had no idea, and I still don't know if I've done it right. We're going to find out together here. I sent it off to this service Shapeways, which we can bring in the box here, which is not really focusing. There we go, Shapeways there. You can see their address. They're a 3D printing service, right? I've heard about them for a long time, never used them, never even really looked at their website prior to this. But certainly they've been in the game of, you send them your 3D model file and they send you a 3D print. So I figured I'd give it a shot, right? Just for the fun of it. And if it didn't work out, if it hasn't worked out, well, it's still interesting. My impressions of their site were that it was, pretty usable, although pretty slow when it comes to importing models and stuff like that. It definitely took a while. Maybe that's unavoidable. It's entirely possible. The one shocking thing was the cost. So this little funnel here. I assume it's little, unless I somehow got dimensions wrong. We're going to find out again together here. This was almost $20 delivered. That includes the shipping and the printing and the materials and everything, which seems steep to me. I think this thing is going to be quite small. It should be quite small if I did it right. And $20, that's including a 15% off coupon code I found. It just seems, borderline prohibitive. I have a hard time imagining how I can incorporate something that expensive into my normal, making workflow. So, that's definitely a disappointment was the price. And I was even, kind of went in expecting it to be a little expensive, and I had resigned myself, well, you know, for the learning and the experience of it, it'd be worth it. But yeah, it's still, I ended up at the end of the day feeling like, wow, that was, you know, really expensive. So let's see what we got. I'm going to open up the box here. I have not, obviously, seen inside the box. Was just delivered a few minutes ago by my friendly postal lady. And let's see what we got. I don't know. I'm excited. Okay. Well, we got a, I mean, looks like a funnel. looks pretty right. I had this printed in their flexible white material, which is a sintered, well, this is pretty nice. A sintered product. I hope, you know, I'm going to move the drawing so that maybe we get some better contrast here. Which means I believe that it's a pile of powder, I think, plastic powder that I think a laser is fusing layer by layer. Rather than the type of printer that you would normally find in you know, home use, where it's depositing a filament, a heated up, you know, stream of plastic essentially in a line around. They offer that too. That's PLA is the main plastic they seem to use for that, and Shapeways offers that. It was only $2 less though, so I figured why not get this fancier material. I mean, it feels, you know, it's slightly flexible, but you know, really feels tough. I do notice there's some waviness. I don't know if, yeah, the camera picks that up, you know, so it's certainly not perfect. I mean, my model was perfect in this regard. It was perfectly straight. And they do, like, kind of, you know, make a big deal on their website and their marketing materials about, you know, how amazing their 3D printing engineers are, and how they really shepherd everything through the process and make everything right. But, you know, there's definitely some, you know, fair amount of waviness to be had here. You know, I'm going to go grab my calipers and we can measure this guy. And okay, I'm back. I got my calipers here. This is super cheap digital calipers I picked up. I don't even remember when. So I'm going to turn it on. It's at 0. I'm going to loosen the thing here. And so looking at my drawing over here, can I get this in shot? Yeah, I can. Okay. So 66 millimeters wide is what it's supposed to be. So I'm just going to try and get a measurement there at the top. And I've got 61. Maybe it's 66 on the outside. Let's see. Because honestly, I'm not an expert at this. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. That's 65.78. So I guess that's probably, and you know, if I look at my drawing here, I don't remember how I did this. You know, again, maybe I'll be able to record my computer screen and pop up the Fusion 360 drawing. So that actually, I think, is probably spot on. This little dimension here is supposed to be 5 millimeters. I'm going to measure that with the other side here, and I'm going to have to just kind of guess. Not a good way to get in there, really. Let's, you know, see. I mean, it looks certainly, you know, I got 631 there, but I think that's because that there's not a good way to get the calipers into that I know of. This is supposed to be about 40. That looks about right. Let's measure this in this out bottom, which is supposed to be 30 millimeters, I believe, on the outside, and I get 29.81. And obviously, this is a circle, so you know, I'm probably not exactly on the center line of the circle here. So I would call that good. I think you know, both Shapeways did a good job of printing to my spec, and honestly, I'm pretty psyched and somewhat surprised that apparently I actually modeled this thing correctly. So I'm not actually in my project ready quite to use this yet. I just got excited about the idea of doing this when it came to me, and so I did it. So the verdict, is still out as to whether this was actually a good idea and whether it works. But I think I can talk about my general, summary of my 3D printing experience, first 3D printing experience with Shapeways. This was actually shockingly easy to do. Like I say, I watched a couple videos. I downloaded a free piece of software. I did a couple, obviously, measurements. This is almost like, Spinal Tap level diagramming here. It took me, I don't know, maybe a half an hour to model this in the software. The first time ever using the software, it was really about as easy as I could imagine it being and still be effective. And the file was not large. It did not take a long time to upload to Shapeways. It took them their site a little while to process it. But that was all pretty straightforward as well. The product that was delivered not only appears to meet my specifications, but I gotta say, it is really, solid. It feels good, like I'm impressed with the quality of it. This is, I could have bought this in a store almost. Like there's a little bit of waviness that's not gonna affect the utility of it at all, but I know a lot of the 3D guys I watch on YouTube talk about that kind of junk, so I'll mention it. There's also like a seam here I see. I don't know if that's really going to come through on camera. Yeah, you can kind of see it right here. There's a seam. I wish it would focus. I don't know why. There's like a vertical line that runs up the entire length of it, which you'd think with that sintering process, I don't know. Why does it do that? Interesting. Again, that's purely cosmetic. Shouldn't affect the functionality at all. I think the two downsides I would say to doing this with Shapeways. One is, and the biggest one by far, is the cost. I don't know, $20 for this little piece of plastic. I get that it's custom, made and et cetera, et cetera. But how many of these can I really afford realistically? Can I justify the expense of? In this case, it was a learning experience and then, fun. So I'm fine with it, but hard for me to imagine incorporating Shapeways into my life, on a regular basis. At $20, you can pick up, some fairly decent 3D printers these days for, $400. So, 20 of these, you could have your own 3D printer. It wouldn't be printing this sintered, plastic material. It would be printing PLA, which I think is probably worse. You could do as much as you want and just pay for the plastic, really, at that point. So, I don't know. If I thought that I was really going to have like a regular use for 3D printing, I'm pretty positive I would just buy my own printer rather than using Shapeways. I guess, for one-off, you got a specific need for something and you can justify the cost. Why wouldn't you use Shapeways? The other, and then the minor beef I had with Shapeways was, they charge you like $5 for shipping. Granted, it's packed nicely. There's, a good amount of bubble wrap in there and whatnot. But $5 for shipping, and it took almost a week for this to arrive after they put it in the mail. I would have thought they could have used a faster method for that amount of money. Maybe Amazon has just spoiled us all. That's entirely possible. That's my feeling on the thing. And generally speaking, I was prepared for this to just be like completely wrong or completely shit. And it appears to be neither. So now I'm just excited to get to the point in my project where I can actually use it and see if this was actually even a good idea at all. Because it entirely might not have been. So that's it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, subscribe. I'm going to stop saying that because that's dumb. Just because everybody on YouTube says that doesn't mean I should say that. You heard it here first. I'm resolving to stop saying that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.